It's Jay. I'm back in for another one, and tonight I have with me
Captain Keith.
What's Upper.
Not much, man. Just glad to be here.
You and me both, man. And the times we're living in is very, very interesting.
Yeah, they are.
Just trying to stay on the right side of everything, because it's so easy to get lost in all the noise and chaos, and the way that things are, it's almost set up for you to lose. So it takes a lot of effort, prayers, and perseverance to sidestep all the silliness and traps and just getting caught up. Because you could just be minding your own business, living your life, and it doesn't take much to be really thrown off and out of sorts. It's not hard at all. Almost criminal how easy it is to fall off, considering how much effort and time everybody puts into their lives and try to live right and do the right things. It should count for more than it actually does nowadays. We do in spite of.
Yeah, I agree.
That's right.
And we always persevere. We come from a culture of survivors. We've been doing a lot, and we just keep on moving. So
yeah, and we should all be proud of ourselves.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like I said, we look up and we like, man, I wish I had this. Or I wish I would have. You know what? If you really think about it, we're doing a lot better than we actually think.
Yeah, you're right.
And consider the environment that we're in, that we're doing well in.
Yes, the glass really is half full. It's easy to forget that. For anybody.
So, continuing on with some movies we've seen recently, our local movie theater, which is a Cinemark theater, they do this thing called Mystery Mondays. They used to do them and they were like more sporadic, but I guess they kind of found their footing with it. Maybe they're doing well enough, so they're doing them more and more often. And so with that, I guess we get the benefit of seeing movies early. And it's funny because the movies that they show, they're almost, I won't say independent films, but they might not be big budget films all the time. They might be the Oscar kind of baity kind of movies, or smaller movies that don't really get a big push. Or for us out this way, movies like we've been seeing, I would have to go to Berkeley to go see it,
Right.
and risk my car having a ticket when I come out, because you only could have the meter for an hour, but a movie is usually 2 hours long.
Right.
Or have to go to Albany or go to San Francisco at the Kabuki or some small theater like that. And then, car getting broken into, or going to Oakland and try, all this stuff, but that's where we would go to see these kind of movies. So it's kind of nice that we're seeing them, one, in our local theater in Vallejo, which is cool, where I love that theater. I love the people there, we have a community there at the Cinemark in Vallejo, which is really cool, which really adds to the experience, especially when you're going somewhere where you got good vibes and good people you get to run into before you go see your movie, and then come on out and kind of talk a little bit with folks and stuff. So this has been interesting to see, and to see what we're going to get, because you have no idea. You might know if it was rated and all that. You might see how long the movie is, but you're not for sure. And so there's been a range of things that we saw that went from independent to bigger movies, and kind of smaller movies like the one we saw, Fire Inside. And on the other spectrum, one of the times we saw Gladiator 2, which was one of the bigger movies we saw for that Mystery Monday. So everybody's happy for that Gladiator 2.
Oh yeah, and we saw that the week it was supposed to come out. We saw that Monday. It came out that Thursday or Friday. We got like a sneak peek of it without even knowing it. It was cool. Off like $5.
Yeah. So I don't think they do a great job at advertising it, but if you're in the Bay Area, then you have a Cinemark for sure. Start checking, usually a day or two. You check on Mondays and they'll let you know. It'll be listed on there. Like I said, I think they should do better advertising on it, because it's really a cool thing. And I remember when we first started kind of going, it wasn't a lot of people that would be there. And now every time we go, it's almost full. So people are catching on. I think it's a really good thing, and they really should advertise it more, because one, people who love movies, we're looking for movies anyway, right? So even if the movie wasn't planned on seeing, we're kind of open to watching it just because we like being in the theater.
Yep.
And then you're taking a chance, but it's only $5. So you see the movie at 7:00, you're paying $5. So what's $5, man? You spend $5 on a candy bar, damn near. So you're not losing anything, and you have the potential of seeing a great movie that you wouldn't be able to see normally. And then also, you don't have to travel too far to go see it. So these, for me, has been a blessing. Even though sometimes it get kind of funny with the movies we end up getting, because when you see certain kind of movies kind of back to back, you start kind of wondering, like, is there a theme here? Because sometimes those independent movies and those smaller movies, they're not going to be necessarily all the uplifting kind of movies. Sometimes they're the heavier ones. They're the more character-driven or based on true story stuff is more heavy than it would be, say, a Marvel movie. It's going to be some other kind of stuff. So if you like those kind of movies and you're up for a surprise for $5 on a Monday, it's not a bad way to spend a Monday at 7 o'clock for $5. I'm very glad that they're doing that. So one of the movies we saw on the Mystery Monday, one of them was the Fire Inside.
I'm here to pay my mom's bill.
So you're her, right? You're the boxer?
Yeah, golden girl.
There was a girl named Claressa came into the gym tonight. What you think about girls boxing?
Don't see no reason why she can't. She got hands.
Hey, Mama.
Talk to you, man.
Going to bed. I got training in the morning.
When you win that prize money, we get our own place. Just us.
USA Boxing hasn't won a gold medal since 2004.
Yeah, well, none of them boxers was Claressa, was it?
As long as I'm boxing, I'm going to be okay.
So you on a path, and everything you see out there is just one more thing to get in your way.
What you doing?
You think I don't know about what it's like to be 16? Hormones all everywhere?
Don't nobody want to hear about y'all nasty hormones.
Oh, you don't? Well, I'm gonna tell you, though.
When you gonna rip the Nike?
Soon, bruh, soon.
Ain't nobody beat me.
This just ain't what I thought it would be. All these people getting these endorsements. Meanwhile, I can barely pay my mama rent.
I would love to represent Claressa. It's just much harder with women athletes.
It's not fair, but people expect female athletes to behave a certain way.
I won that gold medal by being me. What happened to staying true to who you are?
It's way bigger than boxing, Russ. So it's gonna be up to you to show who Claressa Shields really is.
If I'm trained for the second gold medal, I'm gonna need exactly what the men get.
Is it the money? Is it the recognition?
Money is recognition. This ain't just about me. It's just for all the women.
Folks around here know that if Claressa Shields can do it, they can too.
You've seen more in your 16 years than most people seen in their entire lifetime. I want you to take that fire inside of you and turn it into something good.
Hey, yo, you represent out there. Show 'em how we do it in Flint.
This movie, it surprised me. I remember seeing the trailer a while back, and it looked kind of interesting, but you never could really tell. But I knew it was a movie that I wanted to check out. But sometimes when it comes to these kind of movies, you got like a young black girl that's a boxer, and she's in Flint, Michigan, and conditions aren't great. It could be heavy. You don't know how it's going to be. It could be exploitative, where it's just like the struggle, the pain, to the point where you can't see the person for who they are because you're just seeing what happened to them, or you're seeing the conditions. And it takes a good writer and director to give you the heart of the person and not let them get swallowed up by their condition. And so the writer of this is Barry Jenkins, which is a great writer, and he has a great way of handling stories. And the director was Rachel Morrison. They did a great job of not letting the environment overweigh on top of the character Claressa, which is a real person. I was almost embarrassed the fact that for somebody who likes boxing, and I think I've seen some of her fights, but for me not to know her story and even know her like this, like, it's sad that I had to see a movie about a person who's been a champion for years now and is still a champion to this day. I had to see a movie on accident at a mystery movie night to hear about somebody that I should have been known about. And when you see the movie, you kind of see why she is not a household name, even though she's doing way better than she was. But just to kind of see her journey and stuff, and to hear that, man, if Venus and Serena was going through all that, and they barely squeezed through. And so it was just interesting, but it's a story that like I said, I was embarrassed that I didn't even know who she was. And definitely this movie not only made me want to check out some of her fights that she did previously, but also learn more about her today and what's going on with her. So I just kind of started checking all these different interviews with her, watching old footage and things like that. It's just like an amazing person, amazing story, amazing journey. And I thought this movie really encapsulated those things by being truthful, by giving a perspective that, like I said, even though it was heavy, it didn't bog you down. I didn't feel like, because sometimes you see stuff, and especially based off true story, it is draining. Like you had to go through it too, and you barely made it out alive. So I'm glad it didn't, even though stakes were high and the issues, there were many of them and a lot of stuff going on, it never felt depressing or like you wanted to give up. You wanted to see her win, in spite of her situation. So yeah, I didn't mean to talk that much about it, but it was just really, it's really that kind of a powerful movie.
It's a great film. I agree with you. It's very inspirational. When I saw the trailer, I knew I was going to like it. I knew I wanted to see it. I'm familiar with the girl, Ryan Destiny. She used to be on a TV series called Star. It was a Lee Daniels series, and she was great on that. Lenny Kravitz actually played her father in that series. It's kind of interesting. But haven't seen too much of her lately. Yeah, I haven't seen too much of her. This is a great breakout role for her. I like the chemistry that she had with Brian Tyree Henry, played, her coach and basically like her surrogate father, really, for the most part.
Yeah.
It was good to see the whole Flint thing, and being from Michigan, I'm very proud. She's not from Detroit, but she's from Flint. She's still family. She's family. So we claim her. We definitely claim Claressa Shields. She's doing her thing. It was very moving. She had a lot going against her, and she just did not give up.
Right.
Her heart was always pure. She wanted to be successful, but she also wanted to take care of people that she loved. She was driven. She was forced to grow up. Even though she was a high school kid, she was forced to grow up.
It's true. And what tripped me out is the fact that we got so many boxing movies. We got the Creed movies. We got we have a lot of movies. We have the Rockies and all that. Not even just the Rocky stuff, but other fighting movies and stuff. And for them to make this movie and for it to have all the beats and for it to be inspiring and all this other kind of stuff, it was amazing how it didn't feel like a Rocky knockoff. It didn't at all. It felt like its own thing. Because really, Creed would be kind of this story in a way, but even this was different than that. And I thought it was amazing that it was able to find its way. And it's not like an idea for a story. This was her story. And so it's kind of like this rang so true when some of the other stuff is like kind of fanciful and you still like it, but you don't have nothing to compare it to. So you just kind of take it versus see this. It's like, oh, this is okay. It can't copy that because this is the real thing. It guessed what it came up with. This is what it is. And so it's funny how in a world where we've seen many of boxing movies and with men, how we normally see men as being boxers and the champion and stuff, for this to be a girl boxer what normally would be some woke crap that was just thrown together so she just beats everybody. No, this is real. You know what I mean? This is it's amazing. It's amazing. And so it didn't feel like some stuff that they're just trying to push on us and be like, hey, this is time for the woman now. Let's show some. It didn't read like that. It didn't come off like that. It was just like very authentic. And like I said, in this day and age, for all the other kind of stuff that's put out to be like this, when this is really what it is, you don't reject it. You don't feel like it's false. You just take it in. So that just goes to show you that there's plenty of real life examples of this kind of thing where you don't have to fabricate it to make it go through. We got the real thing and the right people behind it. And even though I figured the way it felt was realistic, when I kind of saw interviews with the real life Claressa, it was really interesting how she was saying how that really was like her story and how she was not trying to save face or anything. She wanted the truth to kind of be out there, and Barry Jenkins really found that way to tell the story and then include the truth and make that work out, because that could have been an overhyped mess, you know. And it's funny because to me, it went by fast. Okay, so we would both recommend the movie, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. No, yeah, it's
Go
excellent
see the
film.
movie.
Yeah, you won't be disappointed. Heartwarming story. It's gritty.
It is.
Like you said, it's real. There's nothing really faking about it. And Claressa was also a producer on the film, so she got to contribute that way, which is good. So I'm glad about that.
Actually, she said she talked with the actress once, and the only thing that she did was let the writer write the story and had her look over it to make sure everything was in there. But she wasn't on the set or anything. She stayed out of it. She was like letting them do what they do. And I thought that was amazing for somebody to not be on somebody's neck and for it to still come out right. That's amazing that could happen. Because normally you got to be there and you got to be on somebody's butt and be like, no, take that out, put that in. She said the only thing that wasn't like it in real life that she was about to say something about that she didn't care for is that she said that a boy never beat her up. She said when she went to that first got into that gym, she wore all those boys out. So she said I was going to tell them to take that out because that was the only thing that wasn't right, because them boys never beat me. But for a story, you know, you gotta come from somewhere, right? In the story, you gotta be the underdog, and then you triumphant. She was like, no, that's one thing that was not right. Everything else, all the crazy stuff, the family and the friends and the this, that, that's true. What wasn't true? Them boys never beat me. Them boys are bigger than me, and they none of them ever beat me.
She was getting mad, huh, Jay? She's ready to fight right there. Huh? She's like, I
don't want to lose on a fake movie. She said,
respect, you know what I'm saying?
Like, don't get that twisted. Exactly. Like, the only time you're gonna see me lose is in the movie.
Exactly.
And that's not even right. So I'm gonna let you know all the stuff that looked crazy, all that stuff she went through, that was real. But wasn't real? That boy did not beat her up when she was in that ring when she was a kid. That didn't happen, because she said she wore all them boys out. She wore
I believe her too.
Me too.
And I love it.
Me too.
I love it when she's talking to the publicist. She's like, you have to change what you say. You can't tell people you like to hit people. You sound like a bully. Well, that's what I am. I like to hit people.
Yeah. Right. Professional bully, actually.
Yeah. She kept it real.
Yeah. So we both love this movie.
Yes.
Let's get into spoilers. Let's go into spoiler discussion. Yeah.
Okay. So it still blows my mind that she is definitely a GOAT. The fact that I did not know that she's the only fighter from America, male or female, to get back-to-back gold medals in the Olympics. Because Muhammad Ali,
and the first woman too.
Yeah, the first woman,
but twice.
But the first woman, but the first person to do it back-to-back. So that's two things she did: man's woman, and just as an American boxer. Period. So I love that. That was amazing. When she was on the verge of selling her medal, that was deep. I almost got a little choked up. Like, no, don't do it. Yeah. So those are the spoilers for me, for the most part. I was definitely pulled into that story. I was getting mad at her parents. Especially your mom.
And rightfully so, because it was really showing how your family could pull you down. Friends and family could pull you down.
Yeah.
And not in all situations, but sometimes people don't know better. They don't know what to do with your success. And people get envious. People want it for themselves and things like that. And so it makes it very hard to tell who you're dealing with and if you could trust what, your dealings with them. It could be something. Man, I'll tell you, the story, even though it jumped a lot, it still felt full. I could have took it if it was longer, man. But it did do some jumping around. Like they have her like training. She's just starting off, and then she's going to China. Then this, so all this stuff was going pretty fast. But I understand that they had so much to cover, so they had to kind of cut. And it's funny because I've seen people when they kind of jumped around before, and it felt like, man, it's like a piece is missing here. What's up with that? But this didn't feel that way. It was just enough where I understood and it flowed right. I wouldn't have minded if we would have stayed there just a little bit longer to get some more information and stuff. But in the beginning, when they showed that little girl and they show how far she traveled, and it's like, how'd she get down here? So she came by herself. and you could tell that someone's really a little off with that girl, and she's kind of not nonverbal, and she's going there in the gym, and I guess she's been going there for a while because the guy's been, you know, kind of training her because they don't train, you know, girls in the gym, and the guy had saw who turned out to be her coach was kind of like, man, where'd you show this girl, because she was, you know, boxing, you know, another little boy, and he was kind of, you know, getting on her, and he's like, hey. And his name was Jason, the one that was playing her, coached by Brian Tyree Henry, saying, hey, what'd you teach this girl? Because she's not even defending herself. She's not even punching right. And the guy was like, well, I just showed her a little something. It's like, man, you know. And so she's getting whooped on by the boy. And this is the part that Claressa said, this is not real. She didn't get whooped on. But he kind of, you know, showed her what to do, how to stance and her swings and stuff together. And she whooped upon the boy. But it was just so crazy because that's where he saw the potential in her, right? And that's when he was like, hey, you know, I kind of take her serious, and the way she whipped on this boy, maybe we need to give her a chance. Maybe we need to work this out. Like, okay, I'll train you then. I see potential. So sweet, but it hurt my heart. That girl, like, she needed that direction. He gave her direction. And Jason's character was excited and happy. Like, oh, wow, you kind of whooped on him and you understood what I was saying and you were quick to learn and you understand the moves and stuff. And he went to go help her take off her gloves and take off her helmet, and she kind of backed off of him. And that was so crazy to me. That was so heavy. And you know that girl had been messed with or something, because when a little kid don't want you reaching or touching them, like he was helping. He's like, oh, baby, no. You can trust me. I'm just trying to help you take your guards off. You know, that's all. But and she didn't even speak. She just kind of, you know, bobbed back and kind of, you know, that was just like, that says so much. And because even though it got acknowledged later, and she said that one of her mom's friends had touched her, even if they wouldn't have said that later on, you knew that's what went down on the first scene when she was in that boxing ring, when Jason was trying to help her take off her gloves and her face mask. And it was just like, it broke my heart, kind of like, that little baby, she don't even speak. And that's probably why she don't even speak, you know, because she's old enough to talk. She was definitely like in elementary school, but sometimes you're so, you know, traumatized, you have learning disabilities or you're slow on things or whatever, and you could tell something was off about that little girl. But you know, I knew exactly what it was when he went to reach out for her, and she backed off of him like that, and that broke my heart. But in spite of that, you know, I like how he was looking out for her and was trying to be a safe place and gave her a different environment so she can excel. And even though he was doing that for her, he couldn't do everything because he had a job and a life and stuff like that, and kids himself. And so he couldn't be everything he needed to be for her, but he was something as far as being a place for her to be safe. And that's with her, you know, eventually living arrangements, and also with being her coach and things like that. And so when she had, you know, made it to go to China, he couldn't go. One, because he wasn't a certified coach, so he couldn't go. And then he also didn't have the money. And so it was just interesting how, you know, some of us really have these blocks that's not have nothing to do with talent or skill, but sometimes it's with money and opportunities. And so that guy who was a good enough coach to coach a person that could be a possible champion and turn out to be a champion wasn't certified enough to be on the Olympic coach team to be in that girl's corner. And then the only fight that she did end up losing was probably because he wasn't able to be there with her, because she took abandonment very seriously. So even though she didn't understand that he didn't have the money to go and all the obstacles because he wasn't a quote unquote certified coach, he couldn't go, she still took it as being abandoned, even when he did all the other stuff for her, took her in to train her, took him into his house and fed her and all that other kind of stuff. And so I thought it was handled very realistically. And just like I said, just her not giving up on her family and trying to be there for her family, but then that's also causing her hardship in a way, and her trying to navigate through that. Because sometimes if you're, you know, in the middle of the ocean, you need to swim, you're going to have to let go of some stuff. Sometimes you got to save yourself. You can't grab everything. And sometimes grabbing everything will make you sink. Sometimes the only way you can survive is letting stuff go. And so it was just hard for me to kind of see her, you know, going through that and trying to learn it. And it was nice to see that she was able to find her a balance of family and her life as a professional boxer and stuff. And it was also a trip to see how she was treated as far as marketing and advertising and stuff, because if that was anybody else, if that was like the guys or anything else, they would be on those Wheatie boxes and everything else.
Yep.
And what tripped me out is like when they showed the scene when they had like all the Olympic hopefuls that's there and they watching the other people perform and stuff. Cause I was thinking like, did I even watch this Olympics? And they showed a scene where everybody was like cheering for people. You know, might be cheering for, I don't know, gymnastics. They might be cheering. So they had all the people there, that the hopefuls, and they were watching the swim meet. And the guy won. They was cheering. It was Michael Phelps. I was like, oh crap, I did see that one. I remember Michael Phelps. And there's a reason why I remember Michael Phelps. And I remember all the interviews and him on the Wheatie box and stuff. But guess what I didn't hear about? Was Claressa Shields. That's who I didn't hear about. And so they made me even more mad that I saw that Olympics and didn't remember her like that. Or even if I did see that fight or whatever, it still would have been kind of off anyway, because I would have known her story to make me even root for her. I wouldn't have known. They didn't advertise women boxing like that. So sometimes stuff is left off on purpose, and you thinking it's just like you're not paying attention, but a lot of times if something's not served up correctly, you won't see it. And sometimes the way it's served is on purpose, so you won't see it or acknowledge it. It was just a trip to see. But she had to do way too much navigating and circumventing to get exposure and get out there, because you know, they just wasn't letting her in. And that was just unfortunate, because she could be better, just as good or better, and still get treated like she's the worst. And it wasn't lost on me, because they did the same thing with Serena and Venus, where they have like the white counterpart who's not as good, but they get all the makeup and the endorsements and stuff like that. And they don't play well, but that's the look that they want. So if you don't fit into that box and look how you want, you don't get what they get. And it's not about even you being the best. Knowing that you're the best and having to deal with that and see how it's unfair, that has to tear you up. And I like the fact that she used that to push forward instead of let's making her, quit. Because a lot of people just quit. If you're not going to acknowledge me, then I'm just not going to be here. But she decided to, like, you know what? I'm going to beat you until you see me.
And she meant that shit too.
I'm going to punch until they see me. It took some time, but we are seeing her. We are seeing her. And I wish this movie was out sooner. But the thing is, it might not have been this movie. Maybe it was a little too early, just being lost on some Lifetime film or something. So it probably is worth the wait for the quality. And the fact is now you can go back and watch all the stuff. And now she's getting $1 million of fighting stuff. And she upped it for all the women boxers and women athletes, which I thought was cool.
Yeah,
it wasn't a selfish thing she did. She reached back to make sure everybody got it because they're worth it and things like that. And it was just beautiful. And it wasn't an easy road for her. And I appreciate that it wasn't even easy. She did lose that fight, but she redeemed herself and beat the brakes off that woman, when they started fighting professionally. But it's almost like the same thing with Mike Tyson. He lost in the Olympics, but then he came back and just smeared the guy in his professional career. And everybody has flukes and stuff where they, just don't have a good day. So it's just, it's a powerful movie, man. It really felt good. And like I said, I've seen stuff like this before where it's just heavy and you just, you hate everybody in there. You hate the situation. You just, but like I said, it didn't smother the light of Claressa and her character.
No.
And
one can say that all those bad things that she had to deal with is another reason that led her to where she is today, I guess. It all led somewhere for her.
And I liked how the guy who liked her, she told him straight up. She's like, I've been through some stuff and I'm going to need you to take it slow. And that was so mature. And I thought it was so great that for them to show that in the movie, that it's not like this thing where, screw you, B, for not, guys could be like, cutting up and be like, no, there was a conversation and he respected it. And she was brave enough to say it. Like, hey, I've been through this. Because sometimes people don't say what they've been through and they react in a certain kind of way. So it's this miscommunication that's getting worse and worse because nobody's saying anything. So for her to be mature enough to mention this is what I'm going through. And if you want me, it's going to take a minute. And him being like, yeah, I'm here. So I thought that was beautiful for them to show that. I thought it was interesting, her mom. I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah. Making me mad. Same with her father. What was amazing about Claressa is that she never really complained. She was concerned about, taking care of her family. But, that's not your job. But you took it on anyway. But she never complained about the situation. She was never, woe is me. It just made her tougher and wanted to fight even more. Like she just came out swinging,
And I thought it was amazing that she didn't really let her family go, but yet and still she was still able to make it without losing everything. Because a lot of times you see people losing everything because they choose an environment over themselves. And so she kind of chose both and still made it, which almost shocked me. But that just goes to show how much she has in her, because normally you choose one or the other. And she seemed like she still kind of did her thing with her family and still did what she said she would do, but without costing her. She found that balance. She worked it out. That's normally not how it goes. Because the whole time I was at the screen, I was like, "Drop them fools, drop! They're gonna ruin your life."
I remember I was sitting next to you.
So I'm glad that it didn't, because I've seen many stories.
And when the coach had to check her, like, "Yo, I'm losing money feeding you, but you're here. Yeah, I made you part of my family. I lose money, so don't get it twisted. Right. You just didn't know that until now."
Right. And I think she knew, but I think she didn't appreciate it. I think a lot of times kids, they can be funny like that. They think that money coming out of the sky or something.
That's why when they talked towards the end, she said, "You ain't got nothing to be sorry about. Nothing."
Yeah.
She didn't have to say it, but she knew that man was more of her father than her father was. She knew it.
Yeah.
Maybe not at first, but towards the end, when they sit down on the curb, side by side talking, she knew. She knew.
Yeah.
And it showed you how great that meant, the coach, how great his wife is. When they say water seeks its own level, she accepted that girl. She was open arms.
Right.
Most wives ain't gonna be doing all that. No.
Nobody looking for extra trouble.
No, exactly. But she's like, "Oh, no, come on. You one of mine now." So that moved me because we saw the dysfunctional Black parents, and then we saw parents who were Black who weren't dysfunctional. And I like seeing that balance because people need to be reminded. Not everybody's this way or just that way. So there are mothers and fathers who love their children, who provide for them, who look out for them, and who believe in them. And they do live in Flint and other places.
Saw an interview recently with her, and they were asking, like, "Hey, so how come you still not working with Jason?" I said, "Will you still work with him?" She said, "Yeah, I'll hire him today to be my coach." He said, "He's good. He's really good." He said, "So why did you guys stop working together?" He said, "Well, he kind of blurred the line between, being a coach and a dad. He was kind of like both. And so the line was getting kind of blurry and stuff." And they're like, "So what do you mean?" "Well, he was big on me not dating and all this other kind of stuff." And they was like, and she said, "So you think he was wrong about that?" And she's like, "No, he was right about that. Yeah, I shouldn't have been dating." And
Speaking like a daughter.
Listen, but right. Yeah, he was right. Because I had a daughter, I would tell her to not do that too. Just handle your business and then worry about dating later. So I thought it was just funny that she said that, and that she didn't say anything bad about him, and that she was still working for him today if he wanted and all that. So I love that. I love that.
How honest she is. Oh, he was right.
Yeah. And that kind of speaks to something else too. That, and this came up in another conversation, but I guess it kind of applies to this too. I kind of know how it happened as far as like the Black men and the bad rap thing. You know what I mean? Like, none of us do the right thing. We're all a hot mess. We're all abusive. We're all this. We're all cheaters and blah, blah. It's crazy to me, man. I've honestly seen more good dudes try and do the right things. And like I said, when I see examples of that in the movie, I really feel grateful that stuff like that is in there, because the narrative is never, not necessarily, fair and balanced. And so, this thing that almost seemed like an anomaly is way more common than we think. But I know it's still rare to see it on TV and film. So when I do see it on there, it really is special to see.
Well, yeah, I agree with you. Well, because it's not sexy and glamorous if we're talking about young Black kids coming from good homes. Going to college, having a good mom and dad with solid jobs. That's not exciting. That's not entertaining. But if they came from the ghetto and the parent is missing and one is in jail, and I'm not making light of that. I'm just saying, if you look at the entertainment industry, they'd have you think that almost all Black people come from broken homes, that Black people can't be rich, that Black people can't have solid families and foundations. When a lot of times we do, but you don't want to speak on that. That bores you, which is creepy in itself, which is a miracle. While which in some ways, the Cosby Show was almost like a fluke and a miracle that it was so widely accepted throughout most of the country, because no one thought that was going to happen. Where there was this obstetrician and a lawyer who were married, who had children in the brownstone.
But the Cosby, even though they people may not have the same occupation, that was more the norm than Good Times.
Yes, exactly. And Good Times just made it.
But you wouldn't think that though. But you wouldn't think that. But the truth is, the reason why so many people connected to it is because that was closer to what people
exactly making a false narrative with Good Times. How the hell you get Happy Days, where everybody lives in the suburbs and everything's cool, and you got Fonzie and he can hit a machine and turn it on, and then we get Good Times.
That was cool.
That's right. But then we get Good Times in the Chicago ghetto with Dynamite and just stereotyping Black people. And when people who are not Black are watching that show, they're just assuming that all Black people live that way. And that's offensive in itself. I can't even really watch Good Times now as an adult because of all that. Now that I'm older and I look at it. But some people can, and that's fine. And I'm not trying to digress, but just getting back to what you're saying about Black men doing the right thing. Yeah, no one ever talks about that. So it's more clickbait, it's more entertaining, it's more ratings if it's more salacious, if it's more just inflammatory, if it's more controversial. So we're fighting against that. But that's my answer to what you were saying in regards to. Are some stereotypes true? Sometimes, but not all the time. So, it's just interesting.
But I do like to see when they have balance. Like I said, they did have her dad that was in jail, which was true, and he got out of jail and stuff like that. But then also, like I said, at least it felt like it was balanced. You know what I mean? I appreciate seeing that.
The coach was hard working. He coached her. He worked. Provided for his whole family, and he didn't complain. He didn't.
There was no controversy. It was no mess where he was trying to mess with her or take advantage of her or nothing. So I love that too.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Exactly.
He did what he's supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
So when I heard her, like I said, recently say that she still would hire him today, it just like I love it.
Yeah,
I love it because if he did something stupid, she would say it. She doesn't. She don't watch her words for stuff like that. If she had a problem with somebody, she would say. And so it really made me feel good that she still felt good about him, because like the way it showed in the movie, it really, like I said, I think we really got a authentic kind of view of the situation in their relationship, especially. And it meant a lot to me because he loved that girl. And I'm glad, like you said, at the end, they had that conversation when she was going off again, so she get ready for the Olympics again and stuff, and how they kind of separated, but then they had an understanding and a respect for each other. And that's what people got to do anyway when you're a kid sometimes, to grow up. Sometimes you get pushed out of the nest, and sometimes you got to jump out yourself. Either way, it has to happen. And so that was just that. That was just that. But did you want your baby to fly and make it? Yes. Was he sad to see her go? Yes. But was he proud of her? Oh, hell yeah. That dude was proud of that baby.
Yes.
Of course he was. And it felt that way in that movie, and they translated that beautifully.
Oh yeah. Even her mom woke up in regards when she found out about the whole medallion, the medal, at the pawn shop. Even the mom was like, "Wait a minute, okay, now maybe I've gone too far. I need to stop her from doing this." So even she
I was surprised.
So was I.
That first time, I thought she was going to end up selling it instead of
right.
Like something I thought it was gonna be a scene with her walking up to her friend like, "Hey, can you give her this?"
I know. So, but even she was like, "No, okay, now, maybe my daughter's sacrificing too much now."
And I love how Flint was behind her. Like,
Yes.
they really lifted her up. And I thought I was so... And you know what? That's just... I understand being from a smaller town and having somebody kind of hold you up. That's how I feel about, like, E40 and stuff like that. You know what I mean? For me. You know, it's just like, yeah, he's representing Vallejo. And then he's never shy about saying Vallejo. He always bringing it up. And he just...
I'm known to the world as Mr. L-E-M-B-O-Y-A-N-T. D-Town, California, where I was born, raised in Ferguson. 1979, I've been a hustler on the go.
Even though he's his own person, he his own thing and whatever, he encapsulate the creativity and the vibe of Vallejo. You know, everybody don't express themselves the same way, but he's like, he calls himself an ambassador of the Bay. He's definitely an ambassador of Vallejo. And so it's kind of neat. So when I saw them backing her like that, I'm like, yeah, from a small town, everybody's just proud and they're constantly representing and saying and never being like, oh, I'm from the Bay Area and Oakland-ish, you know, and not say Vallejo. Like, he says Vallejo every time and not tripping about it. And it's something about standing strong about where you're from and then that community having your back. And, you know, win, lose, or draw, if you're doing well or not, they just got your back. Towns and stuff need that. And so when you have that person that's that for you, to see that where it's, you know, supported, it's a beautiful thing. Yeah.
I agree.
I felt pride too. Now, I'm not even from there, but I felt pride for those people that was there in Flint looking for her.
So
you know, does she solve everything, every issue that's in Flint? No. Does she solve the homelessness and the crime and all that kind of stuff? No. But then they made everybody pause and come together and be like, that's some greatness. And it came from us. We grew that here on this soil. With this water, messed up water, with this water and this crime and this poverty and this, you know, neglect of the city and town that the people put upon those poor folks and stuff like that, and all this. And she still, regardless, you know, she shined bigger than all the problems that they have. And that's powerful.
They can claim her and they have a right to. They should be proud.
Yeah.
You know, Flint's got her, Claressa Shields, Grand Funk Railroad, Ready for the World, and Michael Moore. All from Flint. So, you know, they have a bunch of talent. Yeah. So, yeah. And, you know, I'm glad we got to see that movie because I was going to see it anyway, but that was a great Monday Mystery movie. That was awesome. And I, you know, ideally, she should get nominated. Her and Brian Tyree Henry should get nominated. Ryan Destiny. And Rachel Morrison did a great job directing it. Barry Jenkins did a great job writing it. So, yeah. Yeah, we definitely highly recommend this. Yeah. If you want something that make you feel good, it's a good drama, inspirational, motivational, showing you that you can overcome anything if you're focused. If you're focused and driven, nothing can stop you. There was a fire inside. That was real. It's still there. So
definitely. Wasn't pandering or anything.
No.
It wasn't quote unquote woke or none of that stuff. It was just it was a force.
Yeah.
It really was.
Definitely. So right on. Yeah, that was I'm glad that she got to tell her story. And I was a little nervous because, you know, for a Christmas movie, you're coming up against a lot. But the way they showed the trailers about how great it was and how the critics loved it, when you watch the trailers on TV, that helped. And like I said, it's still in the theaters right now, so very happy about that. Because that's how I know that it's doing decent, because otherwise it'd be gone already. It would have been gone, definitely. But nope, no, it's still there, so you can still check it out. And this is a great breakout role, once again, from Ryan Destiny. Brian Tyree Henry, he's in The Immortals. He's always being Paperboy from, Atlanta. He's also Miles Morales' dad.
Miles Morales' daddy.
Yeah. So he's been making his rounds. He's been doing his thing too. He's a good actor. He did. What's the other thing that he did, Jay? It was the FBI thing.
Class of 93 or 91.
Is that coming back? I don't know.
I love that.
Yeah, that was good. I forgot about that. Yeah, so he's a talented. So they're both talented. They had great chemistry. It was good casting. Yeah. So nothing more from us. Watch it.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So that was Jay and Captain Keith talking about The Fire Inside, still in theaters. Until next time, peace.
See you somewhere out in space.